Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host amazing guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and martech. I'm Henry Powderly, VP of Content at Insider Intelligence. Today, we'll hear about how to leverage attribution tools to refine and advance your marketing strategies. But first, let's meet our special guest. Today, we're joined by Andy Schneider, Senior Solutions Consultant and Attribution Evangelist at Adobe. Andy has a great presentation for you, and afterwards, we'll open it up for questions about what you've learned. So please use the chat window to submit those questions or to communicate with your peers. Now, Andy's going to start off with a primer on attribution to make sure everybody is on the same page, and then he will take it away. Andy, all yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Henry. Hey, hope everyone's doing well. I'm Andy Schneider, Attribution Specialist, Adobe Senior Solutions Consultant. Been with Attribution for basically the entirety of my professional career, about 10 years at this point. And yeah, super excited. You may be able to tell I actually have legitimate high energy about this subject matter, and happy to talk to you about it too. And as Henry said, keep an eye on chat stuff. There's going to be some opportunity for you to state some things that may be going on in your world. We'll try to pay attention to that as well. But what we're talking about here is attribution and how do you nail it in 2024, or maybe the last month of 2023. No pressure. But the good news is that you can do it. And here's how you do it. Data. Sweet. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the holidays. See you at Adobe Summit. Just kidding. But not actually kidding. Data is super 100% critically important to getting this right. And we're going to talk more about that in more detail about what I actually mean when I say that. So first off, if anyone is concerned that this is going to be a 30-minute sales pitch for Adobe, do not worry. I'm hoping to show off some of the exciting things happening over here, give a glimpse into what we see as the future of attribution. However, the time spent on each of these different subjects is proportional to the size of the box on your screen right now. So we'll make sure to cover all the content that I'm sure you guys want to see here. Really, this is meant to be a to-the-point, practical, usable, what have I seen? What have I learned from marketers across various stages of attribution maturity? What's working? What's not working? Give you some examples of what I have seen that works and show you that really this is absolutely something that you can do, and not just in the theoretically doable if you have perfect data or if you have an unlimited budget, which of course, unless this is your first day in marketing, you know that neither of those things have ever been true, nor will they ever be true. So, but that's okay. Those things don't need to exist in order for you to get attribution right incrementally and comfortably, gradually and slowly replacing fear and anxiety that you may have around your reporting with confidence and quality reports, assuredness, insights that are actually useful. But before we get into the flow of things, let's make sure we're all on the same page and you are in the right webinar. Why should you spend the next 30 minutes listening to me when you're right in the middle of 2024 planning, 2023 wrap-ups, maybe a year-end reporting deadline or two? That last one may be a sore subject, in fact, which is all the more reason to pay attention. So to create a safe space, let's talk about some of the pains you may be feeling when it comes to attribution. First one being tracking data. Maybe a few of you on this call don't entirely have the utmost confidence in your data set. You may not be in love with your process of collecting that data either. Poor results. Maybe your current attribution scenario isn't giving you the reporting results or marketing lift that you were hoping for. Maybe you don't feel you're getting due credit for the contributions you and your team are making and are fed up with using metrics like page views and email downloads and likes and things of that more kind of analytics, vanity metric, engagement level metric. Maybe you want to be able to speak the language of the rest of the organization. Those metrics probably don't work too well on finance either, who really just wants to know about dollar signs. Finally, maybe you want to improve the relationship you have with sales, that kind of age-old conflict that I've been hearing since day one of working in sales myself. I think that's a good start, unless there's anything that I am missing, in which case I mentioned feel free to shoot those over the chat bot. Henry's going to help me out. If there's anything else we want to talk about as I go through what I see are more kind of common scenarios that hopefully are somewhat relatable, and not hopefully painful, but not in a triggering PTS kind of way. But we're here to learn. We're here to make things better. So the next step would be step 0, which I guess that's more important than step 1 or something. I don't know. Basically, before getting to any of the pretty charts and the pictures and whatnot, we got to make sure that we have the foundation laid correctly. Data, once again, it's not a detail. I'm sure you've heard the adage garbage in, garbage out, very much always the case. And not only do we want all of the data, but we also, in respect to our marketing ops pals on this call, want to make sure that we protect your sanity in the process of going about collecting that data. We're going to talk a little bit more and visualize some of what you may be experiencing in that respect and how to make things better. Next, attribution models, which is the one true faith. That is a Simpsons reference for some of you who may recognize that. We'll come back to that too. But talking about attribution models, machine learning, AI, custom models, W-shape, U-shape, full path, words you may hear fly around when it comes to attribution conversations. Maturity. So how do you do the whole crawl, walk, run thing correctly? That's always a good approach. And also, where do you want to report? That can be just as important. If no one sees the reports, it's kind of pointless. Do you want to report in the CRM? Do you want to report in a BI tool, a native web interface? All options that are absolutely worth understanding as well. And then finally, from this place of enlightenment, where we'll all meet in 30 minutes from now, what's next? What now? What do we do? Now that we've spilled our guts, how can we collectively suture ourselves back together and make life better than ever for us? How do we get buy-in across different stakeholders? What I mean by that is, I often hear it's hard to justify spending money on a reporting tool when you're being told that your budget right now is super limited and you need to spend all of it on execution. There's a good response to that as well. I've had a few of these conversations, as you can tell. And as I foreshadowed, we wouldn't be able to pay for the cost of this webinar without a little product plug at the end. For what it's worth, I think it'll actually be a really good finale. I am really excited about what Adobe is doing right now, where the product has come from, where it's going in 2024. That product, again, being formerly Visible, now known as Marketo Measure. It's frankly really cool to see how Adobe has championed attribution, both internally with our own marketing efforts, as well as within our product offerings. And you're going to see a lot more of those kind of announcements coming out next year, if you're paying attention to that kind of stuff. All right, so first section, why are you here watching me? What does attribution mean? How is it different than analytics? Is it different than analytics? Have you tried to do it yet? How is that going? Maybe you haven't tried it yet. You want to make sure that you're going about it in, a not disastrous, painful fashion. Maybe you're doing it just fine today and you want to show off in the comments. Great, go for it. I think it's actually nice to see that, yes, there is a happy ending to all of this and it's completely doable. And it's always encouraging to see that, that kind of response as well. So with that, let's talk about each of these scenarios. First off, those who have never tried it before, good news, actually, you're in a pretty good spot. Why is that? Okay, and this is kind of harking back to my days in startup Visible world. Things are in a better state now than ever before with your options and how to accomplish your goal of attribution. That goes for solutions on the marketplace. There's more now than ever before. The technology offered by those solutions, and again, speaking on our own behalf, the product has evolved so much since I first started with this company. And also, and this is a really important part of having that conversation of justifying attribution to the rest of the stakeholders, there's more credibility and credence given to attribution than I've ever seen before too. We had to tell people once upon a time when we were talking to them about attribution what it actually was. Now I think it's on a lot of people's ledgers and a lot of people's line items for budgeting. So that's great. And that makes conversations with budget holders and execs and pretty much everyone else you probably will be talking to a little more keen on exploring attribution. So that's a good place to start. Also, being brand new to attribution is potentially an appealing place because you are not a case study, should you have been an early adopter, in what not to do. Not being a trailblazer in the not as fun, rebellious Spotify definition kind of way we would say trailblazer, but more of the Oregon Trail version of trailblazer for my Gen X early millennials out there. There are advantages to not being at the cutting edge of new technology. You get cut less, for one, and you can benefit from the experiences of other brave souls who didn't make it all the way to Oregon, attribution. I think I'm funny. You can tell that. Let me know in the comments if I should stop. All right. So one step in the maturity curve of the next group. We're talking about those who are not completely brand new, but have maybe done a little bit so far, the toe dippers. You've seen a few things. You've done a few things. Maybe you're making some promising inroads into attribution, getting some amount of success. Maybe you're tracking engagement and marketing channels using an object like the CRM campaign. maybe the program type within your marketing automation, and you're seeing a chunk of that customer journey, kind of like what we're seeing here, not just, one touch point or two touch points, but maybe even 3 or 4 touch points. That's great. Something is always better than nothing, so long as you are aware that something isn't everything. And I say, if you're in this camp, be proud of what you've done and how far you've come so far. Even just the idea of understanding attribution and treating it seriously enough to put any amount of work into solving it, I'd say that puts you ahead of your attribution blind competitors. But nonetheless, despite all you've done, you may have this meddling suspicion, this instinctual feeling that you're not totally there yet. You may be missing some data, missing credit, missing confidence, missing your family. Maybe if you're trying to track all this data yourself. What do I mean when I say that, though? This. Speaking of campaign object manual tracking, this is a nightmarish campaign object dystopia piece of abstract art, which is, I think, really beautiful and impressive to look at. Best thing I've ever done in PowerPoint. You'll get a copy at the end of this presentation. But really what this is trying to do is represent a true B2B customer journey. Every member of the buying committee, the extended, many month, many year time frame, the vast array of different B2B channels that are at your disposal right now, and a ton of different touch points involved across all of those different things, all of those different areas of complexity. So yeah, if you were to try to collect this data using a manual approach such as a campaign, this is what you're up against, both in terms of setting things up to track using the campaign, as well as maintaining this kind of really intense, complicated, convoluted campaign structure, which, by the way, spoiler number 2, it's not possible to actually track everything for many different reasons, aside from self-immolation for that matter. Even if you had an appetite for masochism and the benefit of infinite time to pull this off, it still would not be possible to capture the full picture, since so many marketing engagements, especially now, post, middle, whatever phase of COVID we're in right now, they happen digitally. They happen online without a form fill often, like ungated content, blog posts, landing pages. Those things are pretty popular these days. How are you going to see that stuff? All right, final category of you. You may just be happily churning along, attributing, seeing the full customer journey. Everything's going great. Maybe you just want to know what's coming down the innovation pipeline. That's awesome. Hint, and this is the first time I'll say this word that I'll be saying often because I'm required to, because it's 2023 in a webinar. AI, artificial intelligence. Lots of exciting developments happening on that front as well. And as I said, feel free to reassure others if you are in this camp that things are going to be okay, just as long as they, listen to me right now. All right, so next step in this discussion. Now that you understand where you are in this journey, as far as getting attribution right, the goal of this webinar, as the title suggests, is you gotta get that data. Told you I'd be coming back to this. It's not going to be the first time or the second time. Data-driven marketing. Yeah, it's a cliche. I get it. I'm a cynical tech veteran. I try to call out cliches whenever I can, but it's actually true in this case. And what do I mean when I say that? Well, silly, you need to track the full customer journey. Only then can you really confidently say that you're reporting on the effectiveness of the full customer journey. Otherwise, okay, so this is fun. I went through a list of 300 different expressions of how to describe something that's insufficient. So please indulge me here. A few screws short of a hardware store, a few fries short of a Happy Meal, a few peas short of a casserole, a few tacos short of a Fiesta platter, trademark, all foam, no beer, a few Brady's short of a bunch, a few pecans short of a fruitcake, kind of a holiday theme, a few electrons short of an isotope, a few atoms short of a critical mass. That's way too smart for me. A few beads short of a rosary. Grandma would love that one. This is my favorite. A cup and a saucer short of a place setting. I'm actually really into those place setting competitions they have at like your county fair, what have you. Anyway, you get the idea. What am I talking about here? The absurd complexity of how a B2B marketing journey unfolds. I don't have to tell you how that plays out. You've got, as I mentioned, your really diverse mix of different channels you're able to use. You have a extended buying journey of months, years, depending on the size of the opportunity. Probably there's a huge range there, but it's not, a transaction that happens after one click or one ad view. You have the full buying committee. All those different things working together create quite a complex scenario. And as you can see from this illustration here, most organizations who are somewhat on the maturity curve of attribution fall into 3 different categories. Single touch attribution, campaign-based multi-touch attribution, and touchpoint-based attribution. So we're going to cover each of these. All right, so the first and smallest circle of data that I just showed you is single touch attribution. And this is something you usually get out of the box with your marketing automation tool if you have one of those. What this does basically is it gives lead attribution, aka what drove a lead to be created, 100% of credits. So one data point basically across the entire spectrum of marketing. And there's another single touch out of the box model that you may be familiar with, which is op creation. So 100% of revenue credit from any opportunity would then go to that point that the opportunity is created. What channel drove that milestone, if you will, in your customer journey? Next, campaign-based multi-touch attribution. So now we're talking about potentially a specific tool that you either had to buy or maybe you had a advanced, add-on to your marketing automation tool, something that generally just doesn't come included. So I would say now your table setting has a few more saucers and cups and things of that sort, but it's still missing the full customer journey: tablecloth, bowls, utensils, centerpiece, salt and pepper shakers. Anyway, you get the idea. This is to say you're not seeing all of the data, thus you're not seeing the full customer journey. Lots of grayed out circles here that are not going to receive credit. And of course, that is a problem. There's also another data issue with this campaign-based approach, which is depth of data. So within the touch points, you can see, well, say for like a popular channel like paid media or social, how do you know which paid media or social ad performed really well or where it performed? Obviously, you're not running just one ad in AdWords or Facebook or LinkedIn. However, your reports can't tell those different ads apart because your data can't tell those different ads apart. So you can't tell on the reporting side. And this really creates problems when you need to actually optimize within a channel, not just channel by channel, side by side, high level. Think about today's digital ad landscape, UTM parameters that you may be running. Use the paid media manager as an example. Like I, as a paid media manager, will have, my AdWords ads, I'll have my Bing ads. And then within those, I'll have my different keywords and campaigns and content types and all of this. Campaign-based attribution, manual multi-touch. This is the level of detail, sadly, that you're going to be able to get, which does not provide that. Very much unhappy face. And if this were not sad enough, in order to get this inadequate data, you need to have a form fill. That presents some other issues. That's potentially tedious for you to have to set up across your website. And the bigger issue, I would say, it's tedious for your customers to have to fill out every time just for you to be able to track something. So you're really kind of limiting and shrinking your potential audience for your content, having to throw up so many form fills. First is a different approach. And if you can't already tell, this is, by the way I'll describe this, I would say this is the right way to do it, as much as I can claim that. Automated touchpoint data capture. There's a lot of advantages to this. When I say automated, I mean that both in terms of capturing the actual touch point, the engagement, when it took place, what it did, as well as the details within the touch point, like we are looking at here. Look at all these beautiful different parameters and dimensions within this AdWords ad, letting you understand which version of your ads are truly winners and losers, where they are winning and losing across your entire funnel. If you're a channel specialist, this is probably going to make you pretty excited, since this is data that also you can pull up and report on across all of your different segmentations and your different sales cycles, all that data that you have potentially in your CRM right now, you can pivot off of. Tons of possibilities here. If I have time at the end, which last time I did a run through, I did, I'm going to be able to show you some reports. All right, let's look at another optimistic, happy slide. This is what touchpoint capture makes possible. Not only do you get the full depth of touchpoint detail that I just showed you, you also get breadth. Every meaningful engagement and touchpoint tracked automatically and granularly without the need for manual campaigns and iffy data. This is the goal right here. This is what we're trying to do. If this is what you're doing today, congrats, you're doing it right. In my opinion, and what I've seen, there's really little, if anything, separating you from best practice attribution reporting. But again, don't go anywhere if you're doing this. There's some fun, exciting future stuff coming down. And yes, AI, once again. I think I've said that 3 times so far. I've only got 17 more to hit quota. All right. In summary, not only is data important, but both depth and breadth of data is important in making attribution useful across your entire organization. By that, I mean data that is useful to each and every one of your coworkers, top to bottom, C-suite to channel specialist, and everywhere in between. And doesn't require marketing ops to pull their hair out or experience serious turnover every time somebody asks for an attribution report. Also, the more people who are aware of attribution, aware of the results that you're getting from attribution, are able to see these reports, the more support and resourcing you'll be able to apply to your attribution strategy and keep it going strong. All right, now that we have an idea of the foundation that you need and what you need under the hood of your attribution platform and data collection strategy, let's talk about and / argue about what attribution model is the best. And there's a fallacy in what I've said already. Fortunately, it's not as simple as that. And I say fortunately because options are a good thing. And if anyone tells you that there is only one attribution model to rule them all, you shouldn't believe them, since there are many things to consider, depending on what kind of question you're asked. Also, depending on who's asking you that question, what is their role? What are their interests and priorities? You're going to want to be able to keep that in mind when you answer these questions with the attribution model that you're using. I'm not going to go into every single nook and cranny of every model and every potential use case. Instead, I want this to be a friendly, high-level walkthrough. And fortunately, I love it when this happens in technology. There's logic to this. There's a general theme that will help you understand what and why each of these models can be helpful. And remember, you never have to choose, well, at least you shouldn't have to choose just one. AI also, yes, part of this. So probably should have covered this earlier, but better late than never. What is attribution? Is it analytics? Why and why not? Let's keep it simple. The metrics you see above in green here, engagement metrics, vanity metrics, they're analytics, handy for things like understanding marketing activity and engagement and visits and traffic and web flow and stuff like that. What they are not, however, is attribution. And why not? There's no revenue. There's no pipeline contribution being tracked here. Think about it this way. You're being asked by your boss, all right, what did marketing accomplish this quarter for the, I don't know, $100,000 that you were given? How much weight does it carry to say, well, cool, we drove 1 billion clicks or page views, or our email open rate is this, or registration rate is that, versus saying, well, actually answering in terms of ROI with dollars that you were able to contribute across different sales cycles, across the generation of different sales cycles. That's probably going to hold a little bit more weight. And those metrics are attribution. Revenue, ROI, pipeline across your customer journeys. It always comes back to those for me. And I think this gives you quite a bit more ammo and weight in terms of making an impact that speaks to the language of your entire organization, not just marketing speak, because those are the people who ultimately hold the fate of your budget and probably your career too. Let's make them happy. And the way that those lofty attributions are applied all come down to the attribution model that you're using. And in case you're wondering, they're, again, all accurate, but they just focus on different parts and depths of the customer journey. The first touch model, what we're seeing here, only focuses on the very first interaction a lead has with your brand. And this model attributes 100% of the attribution credit to the very first time that lead indeed did become aware of your brand. Hence FT, anonymous first touch. When is this useful? When somebody asks you, hey, how can we help enrich the very top of our funnel and focus on marketing channels, sub-channels, and so forth that do exactly that? Well, this is the model that's going to tell you exactly that by focusing 100% of the opportunities revenue credit at that very top point. Marketing initiatives that are most effective at that part will shine above the rest. Next up, we're still talking a single touch model here. This is the lead creation attribution model. Same idea as the last one, only now we're trying to understand which channels are most potent at driving the creation of leads and nothing else before or after. If you're trying to solve for that initial lead capture, now the initiatives that are most effective at that position will rise above the rest. But you're probably here to learn more about multi-touch models. So let's move to our first of those, the U-shaped model. U, because it gives a big chunk, 80% specifically, to the first anonymous touch, like we talked about, and that lead creation touch point that we talked about, shared evenly, split evenly between the two, with the remainder of touch point credit, revenue credit going to the interactions and touch points in between. Clearly, this also focuses on the very top of the funnel, but focuses on a few different parts of that top of the funnel, kind of how these different marketing channels and engagements work collaboratively together to help drive impact, and not just putting everything on one specific touch point and limiting your view to something a little more myopic. So starting to get more of that multi-touch mentality here. Let's keep it going. W shape. Now that we have a taste for multi-touch, we want to potentially expand the milestone capture in the customer journey all the way down to opportunity creation. Adding that to the U-shape basically brings us to the W-shape model, which is a useful way to understand at a slightly greater depth down the funnel what marketing touchpoints are contributing to driving deals from anonymous first touch all the way down to opportunity creation and nothing past that point. In other words, if marketing's goals stop once an opportunity is created, cool, this is the model you would want to use to answer those kinds of questions. And finally, when it comes to our out-of-the-box models, those are the ones we've seen so far, the full path model. This is the most expansive of the out-of-the-box models. It gives marketing credit for the impact it makes throughout the entire sales cycle and does so in an easy-to-use pre-weighted model accepted across marketing organizations and best practices, which brings us now to the most advanced traditional model. Next, the custom model. Similar to the full path model, but it offers two key enhancements. And this is, I would say, the most popular model that marketers like to use, and you'll understand why. The first addition is the ability to add a custom lead or opportunity stage or contact stage that would not otherwise exist in an out-of-the-box model. Why does that matter? Well, your sales cycle may not be standard, and you may want to make sure that you're adding those non-standard stages into your attribution model and not leaving anything out. Things like, marketing could be accountable for driving MQLs, marketing qualified leads, SQLs. Maybe if you're looking at opportunities that are deeper into the funnel, opportunity stage negotiation, whatever. That's one of the things. The other key enhancement is adjustable weighting percentages across those standard and custom stages that I just talked about. This allows you to decide which of these different standard and custom stages are more or less important to marketing's focus. The more important the stages, say MQL, if that's marketing's number one priority, well, dial up that weight and match marketing's agreed upon goals. Now your attribution model is completely in sync and aligned with what matters most to your company. These goals, of course, can change, as do different stages in your funnel. CRM is always a work in progress. You're always making adjustments and optimizations and changes. You should be able to modify and reprocess your custom model as often as you like to accommodate those stages, both in terms of what the stages are, as well as the weighting that you've assigned to each of those stages. At the end of the day, attribution should be something that adapts to you and your world rather than the other way around. All right, now the cool Jules Verne futurism stuff, machine learning and AI. If full AI attribution, not unlike what Adobe is unveiling Q1 next year, is like driving a Tesla or cough, mechanically superior, lucid. Sorry, didn't mean to get political there. Think of this as a hybrid Prius. It presents a recommended weighting for each position in your funnel based on predictiveness, ease and difficulty, and uniqueness of each stage. But you still have ultimate say in deciding how you want that recommendation to be incorporated across the different percentages of your customer journey. So you are still in the driver's seat here. You're just getting kind of a recommendation to help more objectively guide you. But finally, the full AI Monty and a preview of what is latest and greatest in attribution innovation. What I'm frankly most excited about, what Adobe's been doing a lot of work in. AI now has total control, and that presents some unique advantages. For one, being able to handle and compute larger data sets and do so with the assistance of technology. And you guessed it, Frank Stallone. I mean, AI, sorry, RIP Norm. Anyway, this could be beneficial because humans can only crunch and interpret so much information at once. So broader computational power could be pretty powerful for deeper insights. And also flexibility for things like multiple custom models derived from different business segmentations, having things be more bespoke and specific to exactly what you are doing, having the data, again, fit your world. Also, the complete removal of human bias. We don't want that, like incorrectly weighting a less important part of the customer journey, and thus weighting the channel that drives that part of the customer journey incorrectly. We want to step out of the way of the data as much as possible and prevent stuff like that. Really let the data speak for itself and allow us to then calibrate our marketing strategy with complete impartiality. And as you may have guessed, Adobe is very much committed to keeping the throne with Marketo Measure as the premier attribution tool for B2B marketers. So lots of announcements coming soon. Soon, like right now. More AI, though not entirely new AI. Some of you may be familiar with our Sensei technology. That's basically being applied, very mature, very proven technology in new ways, in new dimensions across B2B attribution. We're calling that advanced AI modeling. So more complex, more comprehensive attribution models, multiple attribution models, as I talked about, with different segmentations, being able to plug into more data sources, multiple CRMs, multiple marketing automation tools, using our AEP data set. Some of you may be familiar with a little bit of the Adobe alphabet soup, Adobe Experience Platform. Basically, that is the underlying foundational data layer that powers our premier B2B solutions. Marketo Measure / Visible now sits on top of that too. So all of the different advantages of the ecosystem, native integrations, that's now all applicable to attribution too. So lots of cool stuff happening there, kind of full speed ahead, I frankly see when it comes to attribution in Adobe's eyes. And really, I actually very much appreciate our product team and our customers, in my opinion, for taking the humble product that I started with almost a decade ago, keeping it growing into a Jason Momoa-like attribution behemoth. So keep it up, Adobe, into it. And our customers, of course, too. Love you guys. Okay, so how can you take action on all or any of this? Well, it comes down to assessing the need, building a case, seeing what's out there, and starting things off right. As far as the need, well, if you're spending money on marketing, you should probably have a clear indication of what is working and what is not working in that spend. And we just spent the last 25 minutes discussing the right approach to this with data collection. So assuming you're approaching it from that angle, you can expect some pretty stellar results. Frankly, this 15 to 18% we're talking about from Forrester is actually pretty conservative. No promises, no overselling here. But I will say this, it's very attainable, even within a short period of time, something that we're talking about here. Also, that's kind of, the beginning of a longer conversation. If it's additional statistics, business case studies, testimonials, maybe even in the flesh customer demo, like what I would potentially be doing. Cool. There's a lot of stuff that we have. There's a lot of stuff that's out there to help advocate for that cause. And of course, I think you're going to get a copy of this deck after this as well. So if any of this is useful, use this as part of this discussion with your colleagues. Some other things I wanted to throw in here. Let's see, how am I doing on time? I got a little bit of time left here. All right, let me cover some things rather quickly. You have the deck, so you'll be able to go through this more one by one. Basically, I want to help you avoid some pitfalls that I've seen happen time and time again. One of them, probably the biggest one, is the conversation of doing it yourself and people actually going that route versus buying a tool that is off the shelf. I have yet to see any do-it-yourself solution in any way compared to any off-the-shelf solution. They always end in disappointment. Sadly, some people can get fired. I've seen that happen, and some really large companies have also tried to do this with bad results. So, look at the evidence on the market. Pretty easy math to back up the statement of why building it yourself would be really challenging too. So the numbers are on your side for not having to do that. Also, this is coming up more and more. CDP, cool. Adobe has one ourselves. Why not use that for attribution? I kind of liken it to, do you want attribution side salad or do you want it as the main entree? Yes, CDPs are awesome. They have all kinds of amazing capabilities. They're very versatile, but only narrowly do they really solve for attribution. And it really takes a strong data collection infrastructure beneath that and data connections to make that possible. Again, if you don't have the data, then everything that sits on top of that, pretty pointless. And here's a point of reassurance. Third and final slide here, showing you that with the right approach, you can actually make it all the way to your goal of comprehensive every touch attribution much faster and more easily than you may have expected without, wasting too much time fiddling around with incomplete data and the incomplete reporting that we talked about earlier. Start with the complete data, and from there, determine the right crawl, walk, run approach for you and where your company is. What are your goals? Do you want to factor in things like machine learning and AI? Do you want to incorporate outbound sales activities? Business intelligence reporting, the entire funnel, totally up to you. The right tool will allow you to start with what you need, which once again, for the billionth time, full data set, and then tack on the features that you need in addition to that as you grow. That's the right way to do it as I see it. All right. I completely lost track of where I am in time. So do we have a few minutes left, or should I handle it to some Q&A? Because that's the stuff that I get really excited about.
Hey, Andy, we do have a few minutes left if you want to go through a couple more slides. Sure.
All right. This will totally be a tease. I apologize. Again, reach out. I think I have my email address in the beginning and the end of this presentation. So would love to get in touch with you, direct you to the right people if you want to see this in greater detail. But surprise, surprise, we have our own attribution tool. As I mentioned, it was once called Visible. I was one of the initial employees way back in 2011 when nobody knew what attribution was. And by way of many acquisitions, we've seen our humble little, rainy startup project grow and prosper into what it is now. And it's, I mean, again, like we're really championing this as an important element in a successful marketing strategy. So it's moving along, innovating better than ever. Super excited, frankly, that a company like Adobe with more or less infinite resources, above and beyond whatever we would have had as a startup, is really pushing things forward. So lots of things to research and learn about us, but it's also a product that has a strong track record. I think that's important too. Lots of new technologies. You want to make sure that you're not putting your budget at stake, not just in terms of what you pay for the tool, but the implications that that tool will have on optimizing, or in the wrong direction, sub-optimizing, if that's a word, your marketing results. So proven strategies are always a good thing. No shocker here. We also collect all the data for you automatically, so you don't have to yourself. That's the recommended approach. Seeing all touchpoint detail, that's all part of our data collection ecosystem. Some things that have come up and have been developed since. We have a Marketo integration. If any of you are Marketo users, some really cool Marketo plus Marketo Engage, I should say, plus Marketo Measure enhancements. And we also have the AEP-based solution that we just put out called Ultimate. That gives you all those cool AI capabilities and a more versatile data infrastructure to plug into multiple sources, different sources, things like that. So cool. I'll skip what I usually show, more fundamentals that I think I already talked about. Let's look at some actual reports here. And let's start with the CRM. So not everyone's going to want to report in the CRM. A lot of people do, however. And there are definitely some strong advantages to it. A lot of people have access to the CRM. So it's kind of that, like, if no one sees the data, does the tree hear itself fall, whatever. You want to be able to expose data in a native environment that's comfortable to them. So cool. In Salesforce, we can do exactly that because the data will be in Salesforce. We can see high level, maybe that exec view, what's driving MQLs month over month, channel by channel. What's overall marketing contribution to revenue? Easy. Maybe we want that paid media manager, more tactical point of view. What are our most performant keywords across each of the stages and milestones of our customer journey? What are our most performant keywords when it comes to revenue? Cool, easy. Data's available. Roll that up using Salesforce reports that you know and love. Pivot off the data that you already have in the CRM. That can be really helpful. And then you have the other world of BI-based reporting, or in our case, we have a BI-based web app. So similar idea. As great and robust as CRM reporting is, it has limitations. That's why tools like Tableau and Domo and Power BI, et cetera, have become so popular. So if that's the way that you want to go about it, awesome. Tons of flexibility there. We can even push more data into that environment so you can understand really easily, in this case, again, our web app, choose a couple different filters and you're there. If I want to understand what is my ROI across every single marketing channel, in this time period, down to sub-channel, down to literally keyword, I can do that. If I want to segment it out based on just product A and territory B with new business versus upsells and cross-sells, I can get really specific about that, and pivot the data to whatever persona would be actually using it. So again, that idea of like democratizing the data, super important. I think I'm out of time at this point. Lots of more fun stuff I could show you, but yeah, I think, well, here's me once again. ammo@adobe.com. It's another story. That's my bongo performing stage name. Talk about that later. But yeah, Henry, in the meantime, I'm sure you're ready for me to pass it back to you. So let's get into some Q&A.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Andy. You definitely lived up to your moniker of attribution evangelist. So thanks for that awesome, funny, great presentation. We do have some questions and I want to make sure we get to them. So this one comes from the audience and they're asking, where are these multiple data points captured? And you talked a lot about different types of data. Are they all placed on different assets that users interact with when they visit the website, open an email, click an ad, etc.?
Yeah, awesome. And I love you're talking about data collection. Definitely the way to think about this. So things that are happening online, I'd say less ideal way to do that is using a campaign or marketing program to capture that engagement. If that's like someone filling out a form, you can do that. But again, it's very limited. It only gives you like kind of that very narrow subsection of the full customer journey. better, I would say, is to automate that. And that's using something like, okay, well, in our case, we have a JavaScript first-party tracking, is able to see every single page view, every single session that somebody has. And we can then reconcile that anonymous tracking ID with their CRM-based ID or whatever center of truth you use, and then connect the dots there, de-anonymize that person. That's going to be able to see everything digital, every channel, sub-channel, keyword, whatever campaign that drives people to your website. And then once they're on your website, we're going to be able to see what now, content are they looking at? Like I said, ungated content, things that don't require a form in front of it. So that's the bulk, I'd say, of what's most important. What is missing most often is really good digital data collection. Things in the CRM, things like offline events. You can use the CRM campaign to track that. It's probably what you're doing today anyway, super easy. Outbound sales activities, same idea. If you're using like an outbound sales automation tool, like Outreach, what have you, you're probably logging activities. We can read off of those. All of this data, once we've collected it, most important thing comes into our system, and then you apply your attribution models on top of that. So we do the computation. We then push the data conveniently, last thing we talked about, wherever you want. If you want to see it in the CRM, great. If you don't want to see it in the CRM, if that's kind of locked down and you want to push it to a centralized data repository and then see that in a BI tool, totally your prerogative. You can do all of them, completely up to you. If that is only the beginning of the answer you want, again, feel free to email me, and I will be happy to elaborate even more.
Excellent. Awesome. Got another question. This is a really interesting one. Someone asks, why focus on attribution versus channel incrementality?
Channel incrementality. Here's a good opportunity for me to reveal that I don't know everything, and I don't actually know what that means. This, if nothing else, is an opportunity for me to be honest that I'm not perfect, but I could guess, but I don't want to get that wrong. If you honestly could, unless there's a way to do this otherwise, email me that question. I want to figure that out. I've never been asked that before. I swear to God. So that's cool. No, you can tell I get excited.
No, excellent.
Coming down. Yeah.
Very cool.
Adobe.
All right. So, we've got time for a few more, so let's get through them. We have someone asking about the quality of their data. They say we have low quality data today. How hopeful can we be about getting to useful attribution this coming year?
Yes, the question of hope. There is absolutely hope. I'd say, well, depending on the approach that you have to collecting data, the data that you are collecting today and the way you're collecting that data may be completely irrelevant. There may be a much more efficient and much more accurate way to collect that data. That depends on the tool that you're using. So you may be able to completely obviate your process right now. And again, nobody has perfect data. We absolutely do not ourselves. It's the question of how dependent is your attribution how dependent is your attribution strategy and reporting on the data that you have today? The answer to that question may be not that much, or may just be like a very narrow section of that. Like in our case, Marketo Measure, we are only dependent data collection wise on offline events being tracked in the Salesforce campaign. Everything else we see ourselves automatically using our JavaScript. So very common question, great way to think about it. Clearly you're thinking about it. But yeah, that's something that I think will definitely be variable based on your attribution approach moving forward.
Excellent. And we have time for one more.
Cool.
And I think this is a good one. Let's bring it back to spending. How am I supposed to justify diverting spend from active marketing ad spend to a reporting tool when I'm already strapped?
Yeah, and I think I thought about more about that incrementality question. I think this is maybe similar to that. So it's like, yeah, should we just kind of keep experimenting with our execution strategy, maybe incrementally increasing and decreasing things, see how that goes? You can do that. The feedback loop, unfortunately, for that kind of information is really slow. It's kind of imprecise. Like you'll probably still have to have some kind of reporting to let you know what's working and what's not working. And I think another shortfall of that is that you're not going to necessarily be able to understand what's working and not working in terms of attribution metrics, which I feel have a slightly loftier weight and credibility to them. And so what's the opportunity cost there? Like it just takes longer. It takes longer. That means you're misspending in ads and potentially spending a lot more money, misspending a lot more money, not having the right visibility than had you spent whatever, amount of money to track what you need attribution wise right out of the gate. That's always what I recommend. If you're spending money on ads and assuming that money is reasonably substantial, you should be tracking what is working and what is not working. And there's more to that, but that is kind of the common simplistic maxim, I would say, that I often hear companies successfully use to advocate for it. Is like, hey, if we can't see what's working, if our executive, C-suites are asking like, what are we driving for revenue? And we can't answer, and we can't answer confidently, and we can only answer a portion of what they're asking, that's a good case for attribution. So still email me if I missed anything in that initial question, but hopefully that kind of helps.
Perfect. Now that's a really helpful answer. Well, Andy, that's all the time we have. Thank you again for coming. This has been really great and really enlightening. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All
Thank
right,
you
so
for coming.
before we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. You can register for more live analyst and tech talk webinars on our events page at emarketer.com/events. On the audio side, don't forget to tune into Behind the Numbers, eMarketer's daily podcast. And finally, please check out our newsletters. Keep an eye on your email for the link to today's recording. And once again, thank you for your time. Thanks to Andy, the team at Adobe, and our Studio II crew, the production team behind the scenes. We'll see you on the next Tech Talk.